The House will come to order. Today, the Pledge of Allegiance will be said by Representative Stewart.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Schiebel, please call the roll.
Representatives Bacon. Here. Barone. Basenecker. Rep. Bottoms is excused. Bradfield. Bradley. Brooks. Brown. Representative Brown.
Excused.
Caldwell. Camacho. Carter. Clifford is excused. DeGraff. Representative DeGraff.
Excused.
Duran. English. Espinoza. Foray. Flanell. Froelich. Garcia. Garcia Sander. Gilchrist. Goldstein. Gonzalez. Hamrick. Hartsook. Jackson. Representative Jackson.
Excused.
Johnson. Joseph. Kelty. Leader is excused. Lindsay. Luck. Lukens. Mabry. Marshall. Rep. Marshall is here. Martinez. Morrow. McCormick. Wynn. Pascal. Phillips. Richardson. Ricks. Representative Ricks. It's excused. Rutinel. Ryden. Sirota. Slaw. Smith. Soper. Representative Soper is excused. Stewart K. Stewart R. Story. Representative Story is excused. Sukla. Representative Sukla is excused. Taggart. Titone. Valdez A. Velasco. Weinberg. Wilford. She's in the back there. Winter.
Okay. Excused.
Woodrow. Woog. Zokai. Representative Zokai.
Excused.
She's snuck in. And Madam Speaker.
Here. With 56 present, 9 excused, we do have a quorum. Representative Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, listen up. Madam Speaker, I move that the Journal of Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026 be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
Members, you have heard the motion that the journal be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes actually do have it today. The motion is adopted. It's a new day in the House. Members, please take your seats. We have business to attend to this morning. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to proceed out of order for consideration of resolutions.
Members, again, I invite you to take your seats. Seeing no objection, we will proceed out of order for consideration of resolutions. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to Senate Joint Resolution 7.
Senate Joint Resolution 7 by Senators Coleman and Exum, also Representatives English and Ricks, concerning recognizing February of 2026 as Black History Month.
Thank you, Mr. Schiebel. And Representative English.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move SGR 26007 and ask that it be read at length.
Mr. Schiebel, please read our resolution.
Whereas every February, the United States acknowledges and honors that Americans of African descent, through their contributions and sacrifices, have played an indelible role in shaping this country. And whereas, even though race, and thus the designations of Negro, Black, Colored, and African American has been recognized as a construct originally built to separate and disenfranchise people based on skin color that was associated with people originating from the African continent, there is a shared culture derived from that history that should be seen and elevated. And whereas in 1915, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, known as the grandfather of Black history, first set out to designate a time to promote and educate people about Black history and culture, as he believed that history created by Black people, despite attempts to limit their potential, is a critical part of American history. And whereas Dr. Woodson founded the organization now known as the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, galvanized fellow historians to envision a week-long celebration to encourage the coordinated teaching of Black history in public schools because it was not woven into the fabric of the American history taught year-round. And whereas in 1926, Dr. Woodson was successful in creating Negro History Week, a week celebrated during the second week of February, as it coincided with the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass, both of whom ensured emancipation. And whereas Dr. Woodson believed that Negro History Week would not place limitations on, but would focus and broaden the nation's consciousness of the importance of learning Black history, and make the celebration of Black history in the academic field of history a serious area of study. And whereas by the late 1960s, due to demonstrations concerning racial injustice, inequality, and poverty during the Civil Rights Movement, Negro History Week evolved into what is now known as Black History Month. And whereas calling upon Americans to seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history, in 1976, President Gerald R. Ford officially recognized Black History Month during the nation's bicentennial. And whereas the Association for the Study of African American Life and History celebrates its 111th anniversary this year and the 100th anniversary of Negro History Week, and consequently Black History Month, the 2026 Black History Month theme is designated as a Century of Black History Commemorations. And whereas as part of the global African diaspora, people of African descent in the United States have viewed their role in history as critical to their own development and that of the world. Along with writing Black histories, Black scholars started observing the milestones in the struggle of people of African descent to gain their freedom and equality. Revealing their connection to the diaspora, they commemorated the Haitian Revolution, the end of the slave trade, and the end of slavery in Jamaica. They observed American emancipation with Watch Night, Jubilee Day, and Juneteenth celebrations, and noted the motivation of Black people to dig up their own history and present it to the world. the American Negro must remake his past in order to make his future. And whereas, in recognition of the contributions of notable Coloradans of African descent who have shaped our state, Barney Ford escaped slavery in Virginia and became a prominent restaurateur, barber, and entrepreneur after arriving in Colorado in 1860. As a civil rights advocate, he actively opposed statehood with suffrage denied to black men and some poor whites. The 15th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, ratified in 1870, prohibited denying the vote based on race, paving the way for renewed statehood efforts. President Ulysses S. Grant signed Colorado into the Union on August 1, 1876, as the Centennial State. Mr. Ford's actions were influential in guiding Colorado into entry into our Union of States with a constitution that put all men on equal footing before the law, effectively helping guide it towards statehood aligned with Reconstruction-era principles of equality. He continued his civic work afterward, becoming the first black man nominated to the Colorado Territorial Legislature, serving on a federal grand jury, and advocating for education and anti-discrimination measures, earning his place in history as a beacon of light above this chamber. And whereas Clara Brown, also born into slavery in Virginia around 1800 and emancipated in Kentucky upon her enslaver's death in 1856 or 1859, journeyed westward during the Colorado Gold Rush as one of the first African-American women to settle in the region, becoming known as Aunt Clara for her boundless generosity and humanitarian spirit while building wealth through laundry services, boarding houses, mining investments, and real estate in Central City and later Denver, using her prosperity to provide shelter, aid, and support to newly freed, formerly enslaved people, orphans, and settlers in need, earning her the enduring title Angel of the Rockies and recognition as Colorado's first black pioneer woman. And whereas Representative John T. Gunnell and Joseph H. Stewart, Colorado's first and second black state representatives, served Arapahoe County from 1881 to 1883 and from 1895 to 1897 respectively. Representative Gunnell sponsored House Bill 57 in 1881, which concerned tenants at will or monthly renters, and Representative Stewart worked on a bill to ensure equal access to public places, regardless of a person's race. And the recognition of their history and leadership led others to pursue legislative leadership in pursuit of creating a thriving and inclusive state. And whereas knowledge and recognition of Colorado's early black civic leaders led the generations to follow to serve as well. Reuben Lewis Sims Jr. was the first African-American firefighter for Aurora Fire Rescue, serving from 1977 until 1997. A pioneer for racial minorities in the department, he was a beloved engineer and firefighter. In October 2023, a portion of East 16th Avenue was renamed in his honor. Penfield Tate II was the first black mayor of Boulder. He did not seek re-election because they tried to recall him for supporting LGBTQ+ rights in the 1970s in Boulder. And whereas Colorado celebrates Senator Regis Groff, the first black Colorado senator, Gloria Tanner, the first black woman senator, Ari Taylor, the first black woman representative, Terrence Carroll, the first black Speaker of the House, Peter Groff, the first black president of the Senate, Nikita Ricks, the first African immigrant legislator, Junie Joseph, the first Haitian immigrant legislator, Regina English, the first black woman legislator elected from El Paso County, and Senator James Coleman, the presiding president of the Senate. And whereas the recognition of Black History Month is not only a call to stewardship of history, but also a call to service and to develop leadership. Over the past 100 years, the proliferation of organizations like the National Pan-Hellenic Council, otherwise known as the Divine Nine, the Urban League, and more recently, the My African American Miss, Yes Ma'am Scholarship Pageant, have trained and developed generations of black people to become community leaders, business leaders, and advocates, and so much more. And whereas many people have contributed to the inclusion of black history, culture, and perspective in our community development, people like Fannie Mae Duncan of Colorado Springs, who was memorialized because her courageous stand fostered the peaceful integration of Colorado Springs. Ms. Duncan saying, "Everybody welcome," served as inspiration for leaders like Candace McKnight. The founder of the African American Historical and Genealogical Society of Colorado Springs, and June Waller, a national organization of African Americans in Housing Legacy Award recipient, for over 50 years of work in the field. Both espouse the values that knowing and remembering history helps us not repeat history, and that we as a society can forge forward. And whereas Colorado celebrates Edna Wilson Mosley, a prominent politician, civil rights activist, and educator in Denver and Aurora, who was the first Black city councilwoman to serve in Aurora, the only Black founder of the Women's Bank of Denver, where she served on the board of directors, and a civil rights specialist for the Colorado Civil Rights Commission. She was also married to John Mosley, a highly respected and original Tuskegee Airman. And whereas Colorado celebrates Mary Greenwood, Denver's first Black public school teacher, who forged a path for educators like Janet Damon, a teacher at Delta High School in Denver Public Schools, who was awarded Colorado's 2025 Teacher of the Year for creating supportive learning environments, advocating for students off track for graduation, and promoting literacy through initiatives like Afros in Books. And whereas Black Americans have focused on examining 3 particular eras of Black history to pursue enlightenment and true equality, looking to history and beliefs and values to be freed first from bondage, then to be freed from overtly oppressive laws and policies designed to separate and disenfranchise, and now presently to mitigate the impact of such laws through examining and dismantling lingering systems. And to this end, Black Coloradans continue to advocate for and pioneer equity to achieve equality for all. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate of the 75th General Assembly of the State of Colorado, the House of Representatives concurring herein, that the General Assembly recognizes the profound contributions Americans of African descent have made to the development of Colorado and the United States, and that the General Assembly recognizes February 2026 as the 100th Black History Month to celebrate the rich cultural heritage, profound impact, and enduring triumphs of Americans of African descent, honor the essential contributions of Americans of African descent to the cultural tapestry of Colorado and the United States, and affirm that we cannot learn valid lessons from false or partial history, but must engage with the full truth of the past, including both adversities and achievements.
Assistant Majority Leader Bacon.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for standing. You may be seated. I want to say that the Black History Month resolution is a new tradition that we do here in the chambers. And so it's important for us to record our history. You will hear later today the introduction of our guests, but many of the people mentioned in the resolution are here today. We celebrate Black History Month now for a century. This year's national theme for Black History Month is celebrating 100 years of celebration, and what is the impact of such celebration on Black excellence as well as the prosperity of our country. I will say that personally, I love Black history, and I know that we have been confronted with the value of it in the last couple of years. But I will also say, and I'm going to say this because I see my colleagues sitting down, we're going to get ahead of the curve. Come on, family, okay? I want to thank all the people that have talked with me about how we can put this resolution together, including those on the other side of the aisle. I think it's really important, though, that you hear us say that as Black Caucus members, we will always be stewards for our history. If not for the celebration of Black history, whether it was through starting with a week in 1926 and moving to a month towards the early 70s, I can honestly say that many of us would not be standing up here in front of you. If not for the celebration of those who came before me, I would not know that we are excellent. Unfortunately, we have a history in this country with having written off our contributions. Unfortunately, we have a history in this country where people have even said that we are not smart enough, we are not creative enough, we are not strong enough to contribute to this country's fabric. And so if I did not see it through celebrations, I may not have seen it at all. I've been up here many times in front of you all preaching about my history. Thank you for reading my book when it comes out. Okay, right? It's early, right? But I do know that I, along with my mother, had to fight for books to be put on our reading lists. And the only reference I had for me in school was that of being a descendant of a slave. And so if it was not for my own parents and those who came before me, I would question my own excellence, and I know you all love that I'm here.
We do.
Okay. And so you will hear today about our guests. In particular, I do have a mentor and a representative from my district who was the first Black Speaker of this House. And if it was not for him, I would not know that I would have the capacity to even be here. And so as we celebrate 100 years, again, we want you to understand the importance of having our history read into record, because generations to come will need to see how we contributed. And I do believe that even though our histories and contributions are being questioned, I do believe that in this room, given the relationships that we have built and given the work that we do, that the people who represent this state will affirm those contributions. And with that, Madam Speaker, I will yield to my next colleague.
Who would like to speak? Representative Joseph.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today we honor Black History Month, not as a chapter confined to the past, but as a living, breathing story that continues to shape our nation and our future. Black history is American history. It is the story of people who were told no and responded with excellence, of communities that face exclusion and answered with innovation, of ancestors who endured unimaginable hardship and still dared to dream of freedom, dignity, and joy. We celebrate the brilliance of Black Americans whose contribution transformed the world. Inventors who changed how we live, artists who refined cultures, educators who opened minds, activists who bent the moral arc of the nation toward justice, and everyday people whose courage never made headlines, but made history nonetheless. Black history is found in the classrooms where barriers were broken, and the laboratories where discoveries were made, and the streets where justice was demanded, and in the homes where resilience was passed down from generation to generation. This month is about honoring truth, but it is also about celebrating triumphs. It is about recognizing that Black excellence is not rare. It is resilient, it is creative, it is powerful, and it is also ongoing. As we reflect, let us commit not only to remembering history, but to building a future worthy of it, one where Black lives are valued, Black voices are heard, and Black potential is fully realized. May we leave this month inspired by the past, energized in the present, and hopeful for what is ahead. Because when we celebrate Black history, we are celebrating the very best of who we are as Americans, and who we can still become. Thank you.
Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. I just want to acknowledge our distinguished guests here today. Thank you all so much for being with us. I rise today in strong support of this resolution recognizing February 2026 as Black History Month, marking 100 years since the first formal commemoration of Black history in this country. This moment traces back to Carter G. Woodson, who understood that Black history is not separate from American history. It is American history. His work laid the foundation for generations who knew that we cannot build a just future without telling the truth about the past. Black History Month invites us not only to remember names in textbooks, but to reflect on the countless contributions we all benefit from every day. Innovations in medicine and science, labor that built cities and railroads, cultural movements that shaped music and art, and organizing that expanded democracy itself. So much of what sustains this country was built by Black hands and Black brilliance. Yet too often, we enjoy the benefits without pausing to acknowledge where they came from. And today, as we see efforts across this country to erase or minimize Black history, to ban books, restrict teaching, and silence hard truths, this resolution matters even more. Because when history is erased, so is accountability. And when truth is buried, progress stalls. In 1976, Gerald Ford called on Americans to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans. That call still matters. Here in Colorado, Black history lives in people like Barney Ford, who escaped slavery and helped guide Colorado into statehood with equality written into its Constitution. It lives in Clara Brown, the angel of the Rockies, whose generosity uplifted newly freed families while shaping Central City and Denver. But Black history is also a story of resilience. It is the story of people who have endured perpetual and consistent oppression, slavery, segregation, redlining, mass incarceration, systemic racism, and yet we continue to move forward. Despite injustice, Black communities have built institutions. Despite exclusion, we have created opportunity. Despite being denied dignity, we have modeled grace, strength, and leadership. For me, this history is personal. It lives in my own family, in ancestors who were denied opportunity, in elders who pushed forward anyway. I too have faced systemic barriers and persevered. And because of their efforts and the sacrifices of generations before me, I am able to stand here today and serve in this capacity in this chamber. I carry their resilience with me in this work. This resolution reminds us that Black history is not only about struggle, it's about perseverance, innovation, and community care. And it reminds us that every generation has responsibility. Today's work in education, healthcare, housing, public safety, and economic opportunity is part of that ongoing legacy. So Black History Month is not just reflection. It's a call to stewardship, it's a call to action, it's a call to service, it's a call to leadership. As we mark this centennial year of Black history commemorations, let us recommit ourselves to honoring the full story and to building a Colorado where every child can see themselves in our shared history and in our shared future. With gratitude for those who paved the way and responsibility to those who come next, I proudly support this resolution and urge you to do the same. Thank you.
Representative Carter.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is an honor and a pleasure to serve with you.
An honor and pleasure to serve with you.
So my portion of the afternoon and this morning was to introduce our guests, and since they are slowly trickling in, we will let me at least explain or introduce a couple of people that are here. One of the things when I first got on the school board, and I spoke to our superintendent at the time, and I asked him, and this is what Black history means to me, I asked him, why don't we have any schools named after Black people? If a child cannot understand or learn the history of the school that they are named after, why is the school even named after that person? And so, two things that we did in Aurora Public Schools, and it was part of the resolution. We named a school after Claire Brown. And I want to thank my colleague for explaining to you who Claire Brown was, but if you're confused, there's a tapestry right outside this room telling you exactly who she was. Another school that we named after was Ed Mosley. Literally, his children were here, his grandchildren were here. One of the first African Americans to get a degree from CSU, one of the first African Americans to get a varsity letter from CSU, and became a noted veteran. So, as I stated, if you cannot teach a child about the school that they're named after, why is that school named after that person in the first place? Last thing I'm gonna tell you, I know you guys can see it on my face when I talk about my public schools. One of the people I'm definitely gonna introduce before I walk off this podium is with the Teacher of the Year for 2024. Oh my God. Sorry. The Teacher of the Year for 2024 for the state of Colorado was a proud Aurora Public School teacher, Jimmy Day II, and at least he can stand up for me. When my son graduated from high school, his principal was Black, his superintendent was Black, the vice president of the school board was Black, the president of the school board was Black, and the guest speaker was the president of the Senate, who just happened to be Black, Mr. James Coleman. I am Black history. Please vote for this resolution. Thank you.
Representative Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the sponsors for bringing this resolution again. If the reason I'm not going up here like I did last year was because I was still navigating my way through this building, but first of all, to honor Black History Month, I just want to say I grew up also looking at Black people break glass ceilings, actors and CEOs and business owners and entrepreneurs and artists and authors, just everything. And it was fascinating to see that, at least in my community, I owe also the people that I get to hear some of your guys' concerns from them. And so, while, we may agree to disagree on some stuff, I think when it comes to issues, hearing to understand and people back in my district, I feel like I owe people who belong in your amazing community also a couple words, because you guys, empowerment, especially the women in this room, right? Like, look at you guys. You guys are fierce, and you guys stand up for what you believe in, so I commend you for that. I'm coming up here to honor a fellow lost, fallen citizen, friend. Her name, Tony Gomes. Tony, a few years ago, lost the battle to cancer. She was a daughter. She was a sister, she was a mother, she was a wife, she was a grandmother. She was light, and she was exceptionally a fine Christian lady. This woman never said a bad word, was always positive, had a smile on her face, made others laugh. And I heard, too, from her mouth directly, some of the adversities that she faced. She's from Texas, she moved to Colorado about 2 decades ago. But the fact that we lost her to cancer was very heartfelt to our community, to her family, and to the family that she left behind. We all love Tony. Tony was literally one of the most sweetest people you have ever met in your life. She lit up a room, and she would always be open and preach her faith. Her family was supposed to be here today, but given the short notice, they weren't able to make it, so that was on me. Where's AML Bacon at? So that's on me. But I want to just come up here and say a few words for her family, and for all those reasons. Chris, Tony, Stefan, all you guys back home, you know, your mom was great, and this is just a small thank you for everything she did for us back home. And I know she's in a better place, but I know she's looking after us, and I just want to thank you guys again for bringing this resolution, so thank you so much.
Representative DeGraff.
Gotta get used to these new microphones. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for the excellent presentation. So let's just get the one part out. I 100% support this resolution, so George, you can put me down for a yes right now. And I appreciate all the words. And I appreciate the call to brevity, and I appreciate hearing some of my edits show up in there. But one thing that I would like to do is I think the resolution doesn't go quite far enough. I don't think it goes far enough because it doesn't go back to the beginning of this country. It doesn't go back to the beginning of this nation as our revolutionary spirit. And that was one thing that I wanted to get in here as I've learned more about Black history. And so, if you'll allow me, I would like to, I move L001 to SJR 007, and I would like to read it at length.
One moment, Representative, while we display the amendment.
Jen, right here.
It is properly displayed. Please proceed, Representative DeGraff.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I would like to amend page 2, after line 10, insert, whereas William Cooper Nell, the pioneering African-American historian and abolitionist, documented the valor of Black patriots in his 1855 book, The Colored Patriots of the American Revolution, highlighting their sacrifices to advance the founding principles of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, despite being denied citizenship themselves. Whereas Crispus Attucks, an escaped enslaved man of African and Native descent, became the first martyr of the American Revolution in the 1770 Boston Massacre, symbolizing the early sacrifice for liberty. Peter Salem and Salem Poor excelled at Bunker Hill in 1775, with Salem credited with killing Major Pitcairn, and Poor commended for his heroism. Prince Estabrook, one of the first Black Minutemen, enlisted openly and fought in early engagements. The Rhode Island Regiment repulsed Hessian mercenaries at the Red Bank and defended Colonel Greene at Croton River. James Armistead Lafayette, an enslaved spy for the Marquis de Lafayette, provided intelligence crucial to the Yorktown victory in 1781, and figures like Oliver Cromwell, Trenton to Yorkton, Lambeau, Latham, and Jordan Freeman killed defending Fort Griswold, and Prince Whipple, symbol of the estimated 5,000 to 9,000 Black patriots, he is often linked in the foreground figure in Lutz's Washington crossing the Delaware, who fought valiantly at battles like Valley Forge. And whereas Nat Love and James Beckwourth, renowned African-American frontiersmen and cowboys, honed skills in trapping, exploration, and cattle driving across Colorado and the West, while Beckwourth founded posts like El Pueblo and Love roamed the trails, they both embodied and shaped enduring legend of American frontier through rugged determination, self-reliance, and adventurous independence. Whereas Harriet Tubman, born enslaved, Emerita Ross, around 1822, escaped in 1849 and became the Underground Railroad's Moses, guiding about 70 people to freedom on 13 trips, despite bounties and a head injury. In the Civil War, she served as a nurse, a cook, a scout, and a spy, leading the 1863 Combahee River Raid, freeing over 70 enslaved people in the first woman-led armed expedition. And I would like to, then continuing, and then on page 4, after line 7, insert, whereas the Tuskegee Airmen, like Denver's James Reynolds, flew 1,578 combat missions during World War II with exceptional skill and bravery, destroying 261 enemy aircraft while protecting Allied bombers and earning the reputation as the Red Tails, who rarely lost an escorted plane to enemy fire. Their performance shattered racial stereotypes, proved the capability and merit of black service members, and helped pave the way for military desegregation in 1948. The U.S. Air Force Academy Airfield is named Davis Airfield in honor of General Benjamin O. Davis, Jr., their pioneering commander and the first American of African descent become a general in the United States. And then I would continue, making no changes to the resolution, but just adding what I think is critical history. So I ask for an aye vote on my amendment, and I ask for an aye vote on the resolution.
AML Bacon.
Members, I want to say thank you for the additional Black history facts, particularly that did not come from our caucus. That is very encouraging. So we want to share with you that these are facts and these are accurate facts, and we are grateful for the opportunity to celebrate them. I will say that we are going to respectfully ask for a no, only in the sense that the way that we have written the resolution this year was written on consensus of acceptance of all in the Black Caucus to make note in celebration of particular people this year. And so we are respectfully going to ask for a no, only on the basis of our determination to add folks to the resolution and who we wish to celebrate. But again, I will say that there is great appreciation for the acknowledgement of the people in this amendment. We could write a resolution, we stood for a long time. We could write a resolution that's 30 pages, but we curated this year. So thank you very much. We respectfully ask for a no.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion before us is the adoption of L001 to Senate Joint Resolution 7. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Mabry is excused. Please close the machine. With 20 aye, 42 no, and 3 excused, the amendment is lost. Representative Ricks.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members of the House, I rise today in strong support of SJR 26007, Black History Month. Black History Month isn't just about looking back. It's about telling truth and making sure the truth doesn't disappear. There's a quote from historian Dr. Carter G. Woodson that says, "Those who have no record of what their forebears have accomplished lose the inspiration which comes from the teaching of biography and history." That quote still hits because for a long time, Black history has been ignored, minimized, or rewritten. And that's why Black History Month exists. But let's be clear about something right away. Black history does not begin with slavery. Long before Europe knew Africa as a place to exploit, Africa was a place of power, learning, wealth, and global influence. Take the ancient West African kingdoms of Ghana, Mali, and Songhay. The Empire of Ghana was thriving as early as 8th century, built on trade, diplomacy, political organization. It was respected and feared, not because of chaos, but because of structure. Then came the Mali Empire, and with it, one of the most fascinating figures in the world's history, Mansa Musa. You may have heard him described as the richest man to ever live, and that's not an exaggeration. His wealth was so vast that during his pilgrimage to Mecca, he gave away so much gold that he literally disrupted economies. But here's the part that matters most. Mansa Musa didn't just invest in gold, He invested in knowledge. He built schools, libraries, and mosques. Under his leadership, Timbuktu became a global center of education, attracting scholars from across Africa and the Middle East. That alone should shatter the myth that Africa had no centers of learning. After Mali, the Songhai Empire rose to power, one of the largest empires in African history. It has universities, legal systems, and a government that valued scholarship and order. So when people ask why Black history matters, the answer is simple, because it brings us back to Black History Month itself. In 1926, historian Dr. Carter G. Woodson created what was called the Negro History Week. He understood that if Black people didn't tell their own stories, those stories would be erased. He once said, if a race has no history, and if it has no worthwhile tradition, it becomes a negligible factor in the thought of the world. What started as a week became a month in 1976, but the mission stayed the same. Black history is American history. Black history is African history. Black history is world history. We see that through historic figures like Harriet Tubman, who didn't just escape slavery, she went back again and again to free others. Frederick Douglass, who reminded us that power concedes nothing without a demand. Sojourner Truth, Rosa Parks, Dr. Martin Luther King, who said, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And Malcolm X, who challenged the world to see Black dignity without apology. And Black history isn't just something that happens far away or long ago. It happened and it's still happening right here in Colorado. People like Barney Ford, who's up there, who escaped slavery and became a successful businessman, and civil rights leaders in Denver and Breckenridge. Dr. Justina Ford, known as the baby doctor, who cared for families when hospitals refused to treat Black patients, became Colorado's first female physician. Wellington Webb, the first Black mayor whose leadership shaped this city. And cultural icons like Philly Bailey of Earth, Wind, and Fire, whose music, born right here, has inspired generations around the world. And that history is still being made right here in this chamber, having Representative Joni Joseph, a Haitian immigrant who came to the United States at the age of 14 and became the first Black woman to represent the city of Boulder and at the Colorado Capitol. And myself, yours truly, Naquita Ricks, from Liberia, West Africa, becoming the first Liberian American woman to be elected to any state legislature in the country, and also the first immigrant to be elected in Colorado, and so many others that we thank here. My colleagues here in the Black Democratic Legislative Caucus, which has made history in recent years as the largest Black caucus Colorado has ever seen. Together, because of the Black Democratic Legislative Caucus, we have also championed legislation establishing the Black Colorado Racial Equity Commission, which is tasked with examining the historical, ongoing impacts of slavery and systemic racism and making recommendations to address inequities that are rooted in state policies and practices. The passing of our Black History bill last year, which helps to continue for generations to learn about Black history and who we are. These stories do matter, and yet today, we're watching history being challenged, restricted, and in some cases, erased. Conversations about race are being shut down. Books are being pulled. DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, is being reframed as something dangerous, when in reality, it's about truth and fairness. Teaching Black history is not about blame, it's not about division, but it is about honesty. And as writer James Baldwin said, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed when it is not faced.
Representative English.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First, I just want to say happy Black History Month, and to my people, happy Black History Day every day, because we do know that Black history is 365 days out of the year. I just want to level set to say right out of the gate, we are not distressed, we are not oppressed, but we are blazing trails, taking up space is what we was created to do. And I'm honored, we're just gonna run it back, to be one of the great 8 that's representing the great state of Colorado. So I just wanna clock that. And I'm also honored to be the vice chair of the Black Democratic Legislative Caucus. And today, I want to honor the Divine Nine as builders of Black civic infrastructure. And the Divine Nine is made up of Alpha Phi Alpha, Alpha Kappa Alpha, which myself and Assistant Majority Leader Bacon have the honor of being members of. We have Kappa Alpha Psi, Omega Psi Phi, Delta Sigma Theta, Phi Beta Sigma, Zeta Phi Beta, Sigma Gamma Rho, and Iota Phi Theta. If you are in any of those sororities or fraternities and you are in the building, please stand and be recognized by my colleagues. We honor the Divine Nine, the historically Black fraternities and sororities that make up the National Pan-Hellenic Council, not as social organizations, but as enduring Black institutions that helped build the civic, political, and professional infrastructure Black communities needed to survive and fight in the United States. These organizations were founded in response to exclusion, but they do not stop at survival. They became mechanisms for advancement, tools for organization, and networks for collective action. They were never meant to be temporary. From the beginning, they were structured to last beyond college, beyond one generation, and beyond one political movement. That distinction matters. Traditional fraternities and sororities were largely social and collegiate by design and are often associated with drunkenness and parties. Not so. The Divine Nine are different. They are service-oriented, intergenerational, and mission-driven. Membership does not end at graduation because the work does not end at graduation. Alumni chapters were not optional add-ons, they were essential. They allowed professional tradespeople, educators, clergy, and organizers to stay connected, mobilized, and accountable to the community long after leaving campus. This is why when the civil rights movements intensified, the Divine Nine mattered. Movements require infrastructure. They require places to meet, people trained in governance, reliable funding streams, disciplined leadership, communication systems, and trusted networks that can operate under pressure. The Divine Nine provided all that. They helped organize voter registration drives at a time when registering to vote could cost you your job, your home, or your life. They helped raise bail money, transport people to polling places and court hearings, and provide housing and food for organizers. They helped disseminate information through trusted relationships when mainstream media distorted or ignored Black demands. They helped turn moral outrage into sustained political pressure. The civil rights movement did not function only through charismatic leaders. It functioned through organized people, and many of those people were trained inside Divine Nine chapters, learning how to chair meetings, manage conflict, collect dues, maintain records, build coalitions, and stay disciplined under stress. Those skills were taught, practiced, and passed down. Voting rights and political power. One of the clearest contributions of the Divine Nine is their role in expanding and defending voting rights, not just rhetorically, but operationally. These organizations understood early that the right to vote was meaningless without the ability to exercise it safely and consistently. They treated voting as a collective responsibility, not an individual choice. Chapters organized voter education, registration drives, and transportation efforts. They worked to counter intimidation and misinformation. They trained members to understand local and national policies so they could engage beyond Election Day. That work did not stop with the passage of the Voting Rights Act. When protections were weakened or rolled back, Divine Nine organizations were among those who continued to organize, educate, and mobilize. They understood that democracy requires maintenance, and that black communities could not afford disengagement. The increased political representation we see today, black mayors, black legislators, black judges, black school board members, and statewide black elected officials did not appear spontaneously. It emerged from decades of organized civic participation, mentorship, and institutional support, much of cultivated through these organizations. And I have a lot to read, but I want to make sure I can get to some other things. But education, professional access, economic stability, health care, public health, and community care, black women's suffrage, and political agency. All things that the Divine Nine still today contribute to. But why the Divine Nine still matters is the Divine Nine endured because the conditions that required them have not fully disappeared. Barriers change form, but the need for organized response remains. Voter suppression looks different, but it still exists. Health inequities persist. Educational disparities persist. Economic exclusion persists. And when those challenges arise, black communities still rely on black institutions that understand their realities and are accountable to them. The Divine Nine are not symbols of the past. They are living institutions that continue to train leaders, mobilize communities, and sustain civic engagement across generations. Now, to my Colorado Springs acknowledgments. June Waller has played a singular role in preserving and protecting black history in Colorado Springs in ways the city itself did not. She is walking in. She created and maintains one-room museum in her home dedicated to documenting black life in Colorado Springs. Through photographs, documents, artifacts, and oral histories, she has preserved stories that institutional archives and public history efforts largely failed to collect or center. That museum exists not as a hobby, but as a corrective filing, a void left by systems that did not prioritize black experience. For decades, she has served as a community historian and educator, opening her home to residents, students, and leaders, and speaking publicly about black migration settlement and community formation in the city. This has not been ceremonial education. It has been corrective education, ensuring the black history is taught accurately, locally, and with accountability. Today, Ms. June Waller is 89 years old. At the core of her work is a clear understanding that memory is civic power. Now I want to go on to also acknowledge Ms. Candace McKnight, whose community leadership carries the work forward in the present with clarity and intention, where historical preservation safeguard what has been Candace McKnight's work confronts what is the policies, practices, and power structures that determine whose voice shapes Colorado Springs today. Her leadership reflects an understanding that history alone does not produce justice unless it is actively applied. She operates at the intersection of memory and movement, ensuring that lessons from the past inform present-day decision-making rather than being reduced to symbolism or ceremony. Candace McKnight's work is grounded in the belief that participation without influence is not equity. She has focused on building pathways that allow community voice to move beyond testimony and into impact through advocacy, coalition building, and persistent engagement with institutions that shape housing, education, public safety, and civic access. Can you all stand up and give it up for Ms. Candace McKnight and her work in the Colorado Springs Museum General Auditor.
Representative English, you have 30 seconds.
30 seconds, real quick, y'all. So last but not least, I have a nonprofit. It's called Yes Ma'am, My African American Miss. It helps build and lift and empowers young African American women. I have given out over $10,000 worth of scholarships since 2013. And today we have on the floor my scholarship queen 2026, Ms. Jasmine Tony. Thank you all for acknowledging that Black history is of significance. Thank you all for celebrating with us. Thank you to my colleague on the other side for intentionally leaning into what Black history looks like. And we appreciate you all for being here with us today and celebrating us as a people of Black excellence. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Ricks, this is your second time to speak. You have 3 minutes and 40 seconds remaining.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to recognize Dr. Syl Morgan-Smith, who is in the House. Ms. Syl, can you stand? Syl Morgan-Smith was one of the first African-American television news anchor women in Colorado. She was a weather forecaster, sportscaster, television talk show host, newspaper editor, and popular radio announcer. She's also the founder of the Colorado Gospel Black Music Academy and Hall of Fame. Please give her a hand.
Thank you, members. We are going to stand in a brief recess so that our Senate colleagues may address the body. The House will stand in recess. Welcome, Senator Exum and Mr. President. Who would like to speak first? Senator Exum.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Appreciate the opportunity to say a few words, and thank you, colleagues and guests, for being here and helping us celebrate this day and this month. An integral part of Black history has been the constant struggle of our people to achieve and maintain equal voting rights. For in the early days of the Republic, voting was a privilege reserved exclusively for land-owning white men. Women could not vote, nor could any Black Americans vote. And worse than that, most Black people weren't even counted as whole people in the U.S. Constitution, but instead they were counted as 3/5 of a person. The first struggle of equality in American Black history was the enslaved to be treated as human beings rather than as animals or owned property. To paraphrase Frederick Douglass, who was born into slavery but escaped, become an orator, activist, and abolitionist, slavery was cruel, unnatural, ungodly, immoral, and unjust. Some enslaved people did manage to buy their freedom, but still could not vote in any elections. It took the bloody Civil War and several major political changes for us to finally be emancipated, counted as a full person, and given citizenship and given a right to vote. President Abraham Lincoln Emancipation Proclamation in January 1865 declared all persons held as slaves shall be then, henceforth, and forever free. The 13th Amendment, adopted in 1865, permanently abolished slavery everywhere in America. The 14th Amendment, adopted in 1868, granted citizenship to former slaves and finally counted them as whole people, not merely as 3/5 of a person. The 15th Amendment, adopted in 1870, protected how the right to vote, how the right of citizens in the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. We were long at last given the right to vote. But then, given the right to vote did not mean we had the ability to vote. For as we know, the retaliation to these rights were swift and brutal, ranging from discriminatory poll taxes and literacy tests to the enactment of a lot of Jim Crow laws and a lot of violence against Americans, Black Americans, who were killed trying to vote. For nearly 100 years, the end of the Civil War through the Reconstruction in the mid-1960s, this systematic and often violent oppression was the new normal for Black Americans in many parts of the country. But beginning in the 1950s and 60s, courageous African-American leaders began to peacefully protest against these outrageous and demands, in reality, their rights granted to them in law. From Rosa Parks' bus seat to the Freedom Riders to the lunch counter sit-ins, Martin Luther King March on Washington, these patriotic acts of civil disobedience drew attention to many struggles facing Black Americans and spurred the government to adopt the new landmark legislation, the 1965 Voting Rights Act. But then in 2013, sadly, some of the significant protections afforded to the Voting Rights Act were gutted by the Supreme Court decision in Shelby County versus Holder. And the new wave of voter suppression techniques flooded the country, from restrictive voting ID laws to fewer than no early voting days to closing polling places and voter roll purges. As multiple new organizations were investigated since 2020 election, some 400 new bills restricting voting has been introduced in the legislatures in 48 states. At least 28 of those restrictive bills have already become law in 17 states. The right of Americans to vote is under attack everywhere in the country. In some states, like in Colorado, the right to vote is protected and attacks against voting are defeated. But in other states, the right to vote being restricted. This is a national problem requiring a national solution. Congress needs to enact new laws protecting the right to vote. Congress needs to strengthen the protections given to the Voting Rights Act and overturn the damages done to the Supreme Court decision, Shelby County versus Holder. To borrow a military metaphor, the many and multiplying battles continue our ongoing war for equal rights. This history deserves to be remembered. The many achievements of Black Americans in our national history deserves to be celebrated, which is why I'm honored to be a sponsor of this resolution, SJR 26007, acknowledging February as Black History Month. Thank you for your time. Blessings.
Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, request for a call and response.
Absolutely granted.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning.
Good morning.
One more time, good morning.
Good morning.
I just want to make sure we in here. Members of the House, colleagues on both sides of the aisle, every February, our nation pauses to honor Black history. The truth is, Black history is not a sidebar to the American story. It is the American story. It is a story of people who, even when denied freedom, dignity, sometimes opportunity, still help build this country with their hands, with their minds, and their faith in something better than what they were given. As a Black man, I stand here today fully aware that my presence in this chamber was once unthinkable, and yet it is also the most American thing imaginable. Because Black history is not just a story of struggle, it is a story of perseverance, innovation, leadership, and love for a nation that sometimes didn't always love us back. Dr. Carter G. Woodson understood this deeply when he created Negro History Week a century ago. He was not asking America for permission. He was demanding truth. He believed, rightly, that a people who understand their history are equipped better to shape their future. His conviction still speaks to us today, that we cannot build a just tomorrow on an incomplete yesterday. Here in Colorado, that truth lives in the stories of those who came before us. Some of those you've already heard. It lives in Barney Ford. It lives in Aunt Clara Brown, which I want to add a caveat. On her journey from Virginia and Kentucky to Colorado on the wagon trail, she was forced to walk at the age of 60 over 600 of those miles on foot. I had a hard time this morning getting on a treadmill. Come on, y'all. It lives in our first Black legislators who you heard about. It lives in the educators, the firefighters, mayors, teachers, advocates, and community builders who followed, many of whom never sought recognition, but only progress. This history is not partisan. I did see that the Colorado House Republicans acknowledged Lieutenant Governor Joe Rogers. Thank you very much for acknowledging our second African-American lieutenant governor behind Lieutenant Governor George Brown, who was elected before the governor and lieutenant governor ran on the same ticket. Won the whole state as an African-American. It's not owned by one party or one ideology, it belongs to all of us. Black History Month reminds us that progress has always required coalition, people of different backgrounds, choosing courage over comfort, justice over convenience. From Reconstruction to the civil rights movement, to today, meaningful change has happened when people decided that the future mattered more than their differences. That is the spirit we must carry forward in both of our chambers, because honoring Black history is not only about remembering who we were, it's about deciding who we will be. For this generation, the work is different, but it is no less urgent. The systems that were once excluded are not always written into law anymore, but their impacts remain. And our responsibility is not to debate whether history still matters, but to ensure that the next generation inherits something better than we did. That means telling the full truth. That means showing our young people what leadership looks like. And that means being the change we want them to believe is possible. When a young Black child looks at the Senate chamber and sees someone who looks like them holding the gavel, I want them to understand that the struggle is not over, but that progress is real, that their voice matters, their service is honorable, and that democracy works best when everyone has a seat at the table. Black History Month calls us not to just reflect, but to act. Not to just remembrance, but to remember that this is our duty to fight for our today, our tomorrow, our forever. So let us honor the past by working together in the present, and by building a future worthy of the sacrifices that brought us here. Now, some of y'all heard about the folks that come from Colorado from the Black community, Earth, Wind, and Fire. I don't know if y'all know about tag team, Whoop, There It Is. Whoop, there it is. Y'all acting like y'all ain't never heard that song before. I listen to country music too, but y'all know y'all heard that. Individuals like Don Cheadle, Diane Reeves, Pam Grier, the first Black woman nominated for any major film award, Hattie McDaniel with Gone with the Wind, graduated from East High School. And the list goes on and on and on. But we've already acknowledged some of those folks that are even here with us today. Look, I want each of these individuals to stand, even if they've been recognized, we're gonna hold applause, but I want everybody on both sides of the chamber from our community to please stand so that we can recognize you. So first and foremost, everybody, let's stand together. First and foremost, if your name is Janet Damon, the Colorado Teacher of the Year, just wave. Penfield Tate, the former senator. Charles Mayo. Terrence Carroll, Speaker Terrence Carroll, Syl Morgan Smith, Ursula Gardner, Dr. Deidre Duncan, June Waller, Jimmy Day, Marquise Bean, Candace Smith Knight, Reuben Sims Jr. and family, Dr. Ryan Ross, Election Judge Marty Long, Jasmine Toney, Thomas Mays, Sandra Young, Pastor Topaz McBride. Will you please join me in giving all these individuals a round of applause for standing? Now, last thing I'll share is, because I'd be remiss if I didn't do this. You know, some of the members of the Divine Nine, you know, as they were being called out, their names are being called out, but I got to give a shout out to, no offense to anybody in the gallery, I have to give a shout out to the greatest fraternity of all time, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, Yo to the Noops. Appreciate y'all, thank you.
Thank you, members. The House will come back to order. Seeing no further discussion, the motion before us is the adoption of Senate Joint Resolution 7. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Ricks. Representative Valdez is excused. Please close the machine. With 62 ayes, 0 no, and 3 excused, Senate Joint Resolution 7 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Members, we are moving on to third readings. I will ask you to take your seats. Thank you. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to House Bill 1068.
House Bill 1068 by Representatives McCluskey and Duran, also Senators Coleman and Rodriguez, concerning the authority of the Executive Committee of the Legislative Council to establish policies for legislators to participate remotely in meetings of committees consisting of members from both chambers that are held at any time during the year.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move House Bill 26-1068 on third reading and final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of House Bill 26-1068. Representative Bradley? I will offer a moment of grace. I do ask folks that you be down in the well. No worries.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to come down and show my support for this bill. When we have extenuating circumstances like my son's injury, personal circumstances like different diagnoses, this is an important bill. It allows me to represent my district while taking care of my son. So I just wanted to come down, run down, I'm out of breath now, in support of this bill because it still goes through a series of approvals. You can't just flippantly ask for time off because you want to go on a vacation. So I just want to be clear because we asked them these questions because we were scared that it was going to increase the need for remote participation. But these are still very extenuating circumstances when you're asking off for remote participation, like needing to be at the bedside of your son for 6 weeks. So I am graciously supporting this. Thank you for bringing it. I will be a yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. The motion before us is the adoption of House Bill 1068 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative DeGraff. Please close the machine. With 62 ayes, 0 no, and 3 excused, House Bill 1068 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to House Bill 1027.
House Bill 1027 by Representatives Story and Stewart Kay, also Senator Kolker, concerning boards of cooperative services and in connection therewith, permitting a retiree to work as an executive director of a board of cooperative services without losing retirement benefits and clarifying board of cooperative services eligibility for post-secondary and workforce readiness funding.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move House Bill 26-1027 on third reading and final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of House Bill 26-1027 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Please close the machine. With 52 aye, 10 no, and 3 excused, House Bill 1027 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to House Bill 1045.
House Bill 1045 by Representatives Clifford and Zokai, also Senator Michelson Janae, concerning housing protections for individuals with disabilities.
Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move House Bill 1045 on third reading and final passage.
Representative Brooks.
Madam Speaker, thank you. I was a no vote on this in committee, and we did obviously debate this quite a bit here on the floor, which I appreciate the back and forth. Although I believe that there are still some unresolved questions that we just weren't able to get to. Some amendments that we weren't able to have, honestly, just seriously considered, even on the committee report. And so with some core questions still lingering, I cannot support it here on third and final reading. So I wanted to just not necessarily relitigate everything that we had talked about during seconds, but just make sure that very clearly, while I support the intent of the bill, in fact, I'm running something for intellectual and developmentally disabled community. So the disabled community to me is very close to my heart. So it isn't a vote against that. It's a vote against our inability to be able to come to some sort of collaborative, kind of work together opportunity, and instead really never got to the meat of what our questions were as a caucus. And so therefore I'll still remain a no vote. Thank you.
Representative Kelty.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Oh, is that on? Good morning, everyone. We debated this and debated this, and while I know that the bill sponsors have well intentions for this, it's a well-intended bill. I understand that, and however, I feel that it'll do just the opposite of what the actual intentions are. It's not only a complete violation of property owner rights, it causes those with serious ADA disabilities to be left out and discriminated against. As written, it prevents homeowners from keeping a clean house, meaning an allergy-free home zone for those who have deadly allergies to animals. Kind of think of it as like a nut allergy, but for our fur babies, unfortunately. Not all allergies are the deadly ones of nut allergies. Pet allergies are just as deadly, if not deadlier. The way this law is written, it will cause great harm. It will discriminate and prevent safe housing to those with deadly animal allergies. Where will these people find housing? If these houses are not allowed to be kept clean, animal-free, where would the people who have these allergies be able to find their housing? We're prioritizing one ADA disability over another, and you can't do that. You cannot cherry-pick disabilities. What about those who have cynophobia, which is an extreme fear of dogs? If in a townhome or a room rental, having a dog around, people with this diagnosed fear, an ADA, under Colorado law, it is an ADA disability. People with this fear will be traumatized. This bill completely ignores their ADA disabilities. It cherry picks disabilities. I have a niece who has great allergies to literally she's almost in my day, I'm a Gen X gal, we had a movie long ago, it was called Boy in a Bubble. And it explained things that I never even knew existed. But there are people out there who have such extreme allergies that they have to be adhered to. This bill ignores that. It discriminates against them. This bill cherry picks disabilities, and to those on the disability loser list, you're completely neglected, ignored, and discriminated against. While well-intended, and I understand it's a well-intended bill, this law falls short and will do much harm, possibly even death. I advise that we take this bill back to the chair and we actually rewrite it. Write it where it includes everyone, not just specific disabilities. I'm sure you don't want to be responsible for harming anyone. As you, with this bill, with the passage, it could, and I want you to think about that. It's full of unintentional consequences, sorry. And, I really feel that if we don't do it right the first time, we shouldn't be doing it at all. And if we're going to get this bill right, let's do it right the first time. Let's include everyone. I'm asking for a no vote today. And let's do this together, write it better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, sponsors, for bringing this. The title of the bill is very broad. It addresses protections for individuals with disabilities, but the legislative declaration is exceedingly narrow. It talks to recent changes in federal policy that have created uncertainty, specifically that the changes included a rescission of federal guidance and the resulting of the absence of clear guidance, potentially leading to confusion and inconsistent interpretation. And then very specifically says the purpose of the act is to restore the rescinded federal guidance. That does track with the rescission memorandum that was published that did state that as a threshold matter, the guidance is non-binding and doesn't create substantive rights. The document that was actually rescinded under a title that was in bold, treatment as a guidance document, stated it's a guidance document. It doesn't expand or alter housing providers' obligations under the Fair Housing Act or the implementing regulations from HUD. I do have a problem with saying that we're promulgating guidance that was rescinded at the federal level. We're merely bringing it in to ensure that guidance is still available here in Colorado, but it's being written in black letter law that comes with presumptions and could lead to more legal challenges. I think as guidance, it would have been fine. I wish this bill would stay as guidance, and we have the ability to provide guidance in legislative declarations and say that guidance should be considered, et cetera. So I remain a no vote. Again, I think the purpose of the bill is well-intentioned. I know it does, in some manner, bring some clarity, but I fear it's also going to bring more litigation. So I will be a no and would urge a no vote.
Representative Taggart.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. It's an honor to serve with you.
Honored to serve with you too, sir.
I'm troubled that I'm up here. I thought we had found a compromise on this bill. A compromise that would allow the bill to be nonpartisan. And for those of you that don't know me very well, every bill I have run in this legislature has been nonpartisan. Every single one. Representative Richardson, on seconds, put forward an amendment that just changed it to the word guidance. Yes, he did. Just requested a guidance. That was strictly it. To replace the language that was in the HUD guidelines that are no longer. That's all we had to do. And it would be nonpartisan. It would be something that both sides of the aisle could shake hands on and say, this is a wise decision and this helps the bill. For an individual that focuses on trying always to reach across the aisle, this is troubling to me because the request made a great deal of sense and was very, very well thought out. It also troubles me that yesterday I thought we had an agreement. I don't want to vote no against this, but I will vote no against this because I don't understand why we talk about at the beginning of this session that we're going to work together and then we don't. That is deeply troubling to me, and this request made a great deal of sense. Thank you.
Representative Sukla, and members, just as a reminder, we would ask that you confine your remarks, be it to a bill or to a fellow member, to the well itself. That is both for respect for one another, but also for good public process, which allows the public to hear the very important things that you wish to say about your legislation. So thank you, Representative Sukla. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I would just say that the representative from Grand Junction, as far as I've known him, has always spoken the truth. And if he says that's what's in the amendment, I would believe that's what it is. I'm up here today just to say that it was asked in the committee if this bill was already in place, if it is federal law, and it said it was. So this is just an if. This is an unnecessary bill. It's already covered, and we need to vote no. Thank you.
Representative DeGraff.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have hundreds of thousands of laws and regulations on the books right now for housing. I don't believe it's good intentions that is motivating this. And if it was, this would just be one more example of the road
and
to
Rep.
hell.
DeGraff, also a good reminder that we don't speak to intentions, even if you believe they're good or bad. We just asked you to speak to the bill.
Oh, thank you. I thought I was speaking to the lack of intentions. What we're doing is we're adding another layer of regulations. We have housing. We have housing that is going unavailable. I just talked to the housing experts about Colorado Springs. We have about a 25% lack of occupancy, a 25% vacancy rate. We have the housing. We have these projections that are going to take us to like over 1 million in Colorado Springs by 2050 that are based on really demographically unsupported issues. And now we're going to take the people that don't have the means. So when the result of these things is what you end up doing is you force the individuals, you force the mom and pops, you force the property owners out of being able to rent a house, rent a property, and then they ultimately have to sell it. And who's going to be able to buy it but corporate? And then you don't want the corporate to own it. Well, actually, I think that is the case. You do want the corporate to own it. That's what all these bills are that's what all these bills are driving at. So we're taking regulations, we're taking guidance, saying, well, the feds removed guidance, basically opened up the market for us, and then, like my colleague said, putting it in the letter of the law, where it is no longer guidance, but it is a mandate. Now, I'd go back to if this was a good idea, if a good intention was a good idea, it wouldn't need a gun. Ultimately, these are enforced with guns. If you don't adhere, if you don't comply, if you don't behave according to the sponsor's good intentions, then you will be penalized and you will be forced out of business. Assistance animal means an animal that does work. My colleague has animals that do work. There are probably a lot of those animals that do work that would not be welcome in a house, but they do assistance. Where do we draw the line? Animals that do perform tasks. Where do we draw the line? He also has animals that perform tasks. Where do you draw the line? This bill doesn't draw a line. This bill just opens it up. That anybody that has property for rent now must allow any animal that does work, any animal that performs tasks, any animal that assists or provides therapeutic. Now that might be the intent, assists or provides a therapeutic, but the wording states any animal that does work, performs tasks, assists, or performs therapeutic emotional support. And that includes emotional support animal and service animal. It doesn't exclude any others. And again, we're taking guidance out. The airlines had a problem with this when they started allowing all sorts of every service animal, and then everybody started, then you'd see those pictures of somebody's service Shetland pony having to be taken on, or their service parakeet, or whatever service animal that is. And so now we're just going to codify this into Colorado law. It was a bad idea. It's a bad idea now. It'll continue to be a bad idea. Whether that was written in there intentionally or not, I don't know. I won't speak to those intentions, but the way it's written it is in there. And this is just going to be one more hardship on the citizens of Colorado who are trying to make a living with property. And of course, I do know that your overall goal, number one, is the abolition of private property, and this, of course, goes well to that end.
Further discussion. Representative Zakai.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. It's an honor to serve with you.
Honored to serve with you.
Thank you, members, for your attention this afternoon and for the spirited debate that we had on seconds. Hopefully, in the future, we can leave debate to seconds. But I do want to just touch on what this bill does for those of you who maybe weren't in the chamber during that time. What this bill is addressing is a cut in guidelines that happened federally. There has been a sweeping effort by the federal government to take a chainsaw to certain procedures, and doing so has left gaps in law and in interpretations of law. And what that has done is created a litigation risk that is quite costly to Coloradans. And so what we have done here is taken those same exact standards that have existed, that landlords and tenants have followed for decades, and we are codifying current practices into state law. This is so individuals with disabilities can continue to have their assistance animals and aren't forced to choose between housing or keeping their service animal or emotional service animal. Support animal, excuse me. I do want to just quickly speak to our process since that has come up. We have made efforts to work across the aisle. I appreciate everybody's engagement on this. We, however, are not going to accept amendments that make our bill obsolete or that lessen protections for individuals with disability, whether that's intended or not. We've been very careful to make sure we are taking current practices and ensuring that they are continued in our statutes for individuals with disability. So with that, I urge a yes vote.
Further discussion. Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 261045. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine. Members, please proceed to vote. Mr. Shebo, please close the machine. With 40 aye, 23 no, and 2 excused, House Bill 26-1045 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. We are on to announcements and introductions. Members, are there any announcements or introductions today? Representative Mabry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Judiciary Committee members, we will meet at 1:30 or upon adjournment of the committees. We're going to be in room 107. We're going to hear House Bill 1039, House Bill 1020, and House Bill 1060. Plan on 1:30, but if the early committees run long, we'll be in touch.
Representative Lukens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Just a reminder that the Outdoor Recreation Caucus is having lunch today at 12 noon in the SSB cafeteria, and you all are invited. Thank you.
Representative Johnson. Representative Espinosa. Who'd ever like to go? Go for it. Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Today is Missing Persons Day, so you might have seen a lot of yellow roses and yellow ribbons floating around the Capitol. Today is a day to honor and recognize all of the families who have a missing loved one. Every 40 seconds, someone goes missing in the United States.
Monica?
Approximately 2,300 Americans are reported missing every day, and there are as many as 90,000 active missing person cases in the United States at any given moment. This is way too many. Let us always remember and give hope and give faith as they continue to seek out what's happened to the loved one, and let's pray that they make it home.
Thank you, members. I also want to talk about Missing Persons Day. Our robust debate has precluded us from attending the prayer vigil that was happening on the steps. However, family members are here in the Capitol today, and we have put a yellow ribbon on each of your desks and ask you to wear that. We'll be bringing forward a formal resolution soon. There are over 1,200 people currently from the state of Colorado on the missing persons list. We also have in our office, the CBI monitors that list, and we also have a specific sub-office for the Office of Indigenous Missing People. We'll be talking more about that as we bring forward the initiative, the resolution in the future, but we want you to hold in your heart today all those families who are missing loved ones, because we today are recognizing the missing persons in Colorado.
Members, one quick announcement. You should have received this yesterday. It should have been on your desk, your emergency procedures manual. It sounds like it would be very helpful if you reviewed that. So we're just asking that you review that. Of course, make sure that your staff have reviewed that as well. And so please be aware of anything that you need to do should an emergency arise in this building. We want to make sure everyone stays safe. Representative Valdez.
It's an honor to serve with you.
Honored to serve with you.
Yes, folks, there still is an Energy and Environment Committee, but we are not meeting today. We will meet tomorrow. And if anyone's seen any really nice pillows floating around the Capitol, they're mine.
Representative Sukla.
Thank you, Speaker Pro Tem. Western Colorado University is going to be at the House at 8 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock. Come meet President Brad Baca at the old Supreme Court building, or room. Thank you.
Representative Hamrick.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Minority Leader Caldwell and Representative Weinberg for helping me with a crazy traffic issue this morning. So it's really a heartfelt thank you. So thank you so much. Today, the Colorado School Nutrition Association is at the Capitol. They were over in the seats over there. These folks work hard to implement the Healthy School Meals for All program and make sure all students are fed. Stop by the First Baptist Church at lunchtime to meet your local district representatives and let CSNA feed you too. They will be offering a delicious banquet of farm-to-table food. And it's National School Counseling Week this week. I would also like to thank and welcome, they are also on the floor, high school counselors. School counselors support students at every stage, helping with academic growth, career and post-secondary readiness, and social and emotional well-being. They deliver proactive, preventative, data-informed support so every student is known and has access to help, not just those in crisis. Many counselors are serving far above the recommended one counselor to 250 students, often at double or triple that caseload. Thank you for strengthening student outcomes and school communities. When students feel safe, supported, and known, attendance rises, discipline falls, and engagement grows. Please thank a counselor today. Thank you.
Representative Froelich.
Thank you, Speaker Pro Tem. The Transportation, Housing, and Local Government Committee will meet in a joint transportation at Old State Library at 1:30 or upon adjournment of the upon adjournment committees to hear the RTD Accountability Committee report, and then stay in the room for a different set of presentations. See you there, or be square.
Representative Tatone.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Tomorrow morning, members of the Joint Technology Committee, don't forget, 8 o'clock a.m., we're going to have a presentation on amended IT capital budget request, committee discussion, and additional committee business, 8 o'clock upstairs, room 352.
Representative Ricks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, Business and Labor will meet about 10 minutes upon adjournment in room 112. We'll be hearing two bills, House Bill 1013, House Bill 1003. See you there, and don't be late.
Representative Froelich, back again.
Mixing it up. Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Folks, if you would like to join the Colorado Bar Association for their reception, it is today at 4:30 at 1290 Broadway, and it goes till 7.
Representative Gilchrist.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. The Health and Human Services Committee will meet in room 112 at 1:30 today to hear the sunset review of the Colorado Professional Boxing Act, House Bill 1040, sterilization rights of persons with disabilities, and then House Bill 1042, dry needling by occupational therapists, in that order. We'll see you there.
Madam Assistant Majority Leader. And Representative Hartsook.
Members, Mardi Gras is coming. All right.
Members.
Anyway, so Mardi Gras is Tuesday, February 16th or 17th. If you are interested in bringing any food, please let one of us know from our respective parties. We will, of course, have some gumbo and some great other food, but we do hope that you can participate.
Representative Hartsook.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Members, please share your culinary skills. Bring it out, whatever you want to cook up. Yes, it's Mardi Gras theme, but if you've got something special that you want to share with everyone, we would love to have you bring it. Thank you so kindly.
Madam Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, and thank you, Rep. Hartsook. Members, it is also in honor of Black History Month. As you note, we have another hidden figure to share with you today, Katherine Johnson. Also, later this month, please look out for it. We will also be having our food event. So you get 2 treats from the Black Caucus this year. We get Mardi Gras, and we also get food from our diaspora. Last year, if you remember, we invited everyone, so please look out for that too. Thank you so much.
Majority Leader Duran.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I move to lay over the balance of the calendar till Thursday, February 5th, 2026.
Seeing no objection, the balance of the calendar will be laid over until tomorrow. Majority Leader Duran.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I move the House stand in recess until later today.
Seeing no objection, the House will stand in recess until later today.